Well, I just feel like the way that whole thing went down was sort of like it happened in the way it happened in order for me to kind of just like go with it and then right. I mean, that's my feelings on it. Like I said, there's just still me speculating, but looking back on it, like that is my really one big regret is doing that. I wish I never would have. I wish I would have just said no.
What's up, Bengal fans? It's your host, Joey Karni, and I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It was an amazing experience, and I can't wait for you to watch the full episode and enjoy it just as much as I did filming it. Now, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down below to stay up to date with all the Angles activity right here on YouTube. Now enjoy the show.
Let's go, let's go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Angle Podcast. My name is Joey Karni, obviously the host. With me today is a face you know, and don't be fooled, he's still all about steaks and weights. Please welcome former Tucker Knight. He is now known as Levi Cooper. How are you?
Doing excellent, man. How are you, Joey?
Good. I'm excited to have you on the show and talk. And there's a lot of things to talk about, especially now. 90-day no compete is over, so you are free to do really whatever you want. The future is really yours. And to start off this conversation, how has been the last 90 days been for you?
It's been good, man. You know, it's been, I mean, obviously, you know, nobody likes getting fired or released, and there comes emotion with that, you know, typically disappointment. You know, I started with WWE basically at the very beginning of the year in 2014. And, you know, so I spent basically my entire 20s with them. And because of that, I missed out on some things at home, you know, and before that I was, you know, wrestling in college. So my daughter just turned 3 in June. My wife's pregnant and she's due in early October. So, you know, really I've just been catching up on lost time at home and really trying to, you know, enjoy that and kind of take it for the blessing that it is to be able to spend that much time at home with my family. And then on top of that, been just really taking care of my body and my mind. You know, I think at one point with WWE, I was, you know, maybe 325 in my heavy machinery run and was always over 300 pounds. I'm at about 240 now. Wow. I've really focused and committed on, you know, eating properly, maybe in a way that I wasn't doing before. And then really focused on doing yoga and meditation and just doing the things I feel like are required to, you know, get myself feeling good and happy.
Yeah. That's really what's really important in life, you know, and congrats on, you know, the new addition to the family, but also being able to, you know, get into that new groove of getting yourself healthier and losing that weight. I mean, that's incredible. I know towards the end of your WWE run, we did see you slim down a little bit there. Is that where that all started for you?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of catalyst, if you will, for my weight loss journey was, well, I don't know, this may end up being a little bit long-winded, but essentially, you know, from the time I was 15 or 16 until basically my 30th birthday, my goal in terms of training had been to get bigger, faster, and stronger. That's sort of irregardless of what the long-term ramifications of that may be, right? Like I'm just trying to be the best athlete that I can be, and trying to, you know, if there's like little twings and pains and things that I have going on with my joints potentially, you know, just sort of mask those or do what's required to, you know, kind of push through the pain, if you will, or whatever, and all in service of getting bigger, faster, and stronger. Then I started doing these breathing exercises and I realized that I couldn't engage my core properly on the right side of my body, and that when my abductor on the inside of my leg was engaged, I couldn't tilt my pelvis properly and engage my glute minor. And so because of that, my back was picking up all the slack. And basically, like I could squat 500 pounds, but I couldn't do it with proper technique. You know, I wasn't doing it right. And So I sort of just realized, oh man, like there's these kind of mobility positions that I can't even get close to being in. And that means that my core can't support my body the way that it's supposed to. And obviously, the risk for injury goes up when
Yeah.
your body can't protect itself in the way that it's supposed to. So, for every 4 pounds, or excuse me, for every 1 pound extra that you weigh, there's 4 pounds of pressure on your knees.
Wow.
So, just kind of started doing that research, and basically determined that my goal of getting bigger and faster and stronger was no longer servicing my body in the way that I wanted it to. And I made a pivot to make a new goal. Essentially, I have this book called The Modern Art and Science of Mobility, and it has all of your functional mobility chains, essentially just ways that your body should be able to move properly. And so that's kind of the thing, my template that I've been using for the better part of a year now, in quest of being able to do all these mobility positions with the understanding that, if I can do them, then my body's biomechanics are working in the way that they're designed to work. And that hasn't been the case for, 5 or 6 years. I'm realizing. And so, my parents, I, see them, obviously, especially my father, he's kind of not been taking care of himself in the way that he should be, particularly around those areas. And, I just see what that kind of neglect can take its toll over the long run.
Yeah.
So, that's basically what it's been.
And you mentioned yoga and meditation, and that kind of caught me because a few weeks ago, I actually interviewed Diamond Dallas Page, DDP, had him on the show. And we talked about, obviously DDP yoga, and he actually got me into it. He gave me a whole program, and I've been doing it for the last couple of weeks because for me, I have issues with my knees and my lower back. Obviously not a wrestler, but just, day-to-day issues, and it's really helped.
Sure.
So how has yoga and meditation, been for you?
So yeah, I mean, DDPY that was sort of the beginning of my, yoga journey. And I still am, doing that 3 times a week. Big fan of what they have going on. It's a step above yoga in terms of sort of its physical therapy process, right? And the flexing and engaging of all your muscles, and sort of understanding how, that builds strength in your joints without really, having to impact them. So, I guess it was, it all started out as a physical journey, right? Yoga for me started out as, okay, I'm fairly athletic and I can do all these different things. But like I said, I'm realizing that, there's certain positions that I can't do properly. Yeah. And that's going to become a big problem eventually. And so when I started doing that on a regular basis, and I started to really take inventory of how it was affecting me emotionally, right, and physiologically, and just whoa, man, I'm having better days,
Yeah.
And then kind of on top of that, I have, like I mentioned, I have my daughter, and so if I can get in the habit of, me and my wife now, we wake up at 5:45 and we do half an hour, 45 minutes of yoga every morning, basically five times a week, Monday through Friday. And, so the mental piece of also waking up, doing something for myself and getting kind of my thoughts collected, right? What are the things I want to accomplish today? And just kind of having some time for myself. I think anybody who's a parent knows that, those moments are fleeting. And if you can kind of build that into your day, that in the morning, you're going to have, a little bit of time to collect yourself, see what kind of inner dialogue is happening in your brain and figure out, okay, this is what I want to do today, whatever, as opposed to waking up at the same time your kids and just sort of being in this reactionary, mode for a few hours in the morning, and then realizing whoa, I haven't had any time to collect my thoughts. I don't know what's going on really today. And that, has its effects on your, physiological systems.
Of course. And I have to give you props for that because it takes a lot for someone to realize, first off, these are the things that I do need to work on, and to actually do it and become consistent with it, where it's actually a daily part of your life. So, kudos to you and having your wife involved with that, and finding all those things to be grateful for, especially with everything that's been going on, the last year. That's really amazing to hear.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's, it is just exactly what you said, that just, I think another big piece of it is negative self-talk. You know, I don't think any human beings on the planet need to work on negative self-talk. I think we probably all have that down, you know, and what we do need to work on is positive self-talk. And like, you know, even if you just woke up in the morning and you drank water before you drank coffee, like pat yourself on the back for that. You know, if you, whatever it is, like celebrate your small victories, make yourself feel good about the things that you're doing to take care of yourself on a daily basis. And you're going to be much more likely to do them because you're sort of hacking your brain, right? I mean, you're telling yourself good job, like, and doing those kinds of things, you're going to inevitably get some dopamine and get some of these, you know, hormones that lead to, you know, habits and lead to the kinds of processes where, you know, eventually you don't have to do it in such a, you know, focused way or in such an intentive way. Like it'll just be a part of your daily routine.
Of course. And I honestly, I couldn't really agree more with that, because I mean, it is hard to get to that point where, you know, you block out that negative talk and you start finding those little wins, but the little wins end up being the biggest, you know, outcomes. So I do think that that's something definitely, you know, for people listening and watching right now, that's a great, you know, life lesson to take out of anything from this conversation. But I do want to touch on your WWE career. 2016, we get Heavy Machinery, you and Otis. What went into creating that team? Like, who was behind it, and really, where did the original idea come from?
Yeah, so the head coach, the PC, Matt Bloom, was sort of the initial kind of like put us together. You know, I think at the time I'd been there for, you know, 2.5 years maybe, and had been experimenting with, you know, different things, essentially trying to kind of figure out, you know, where my place is, whatever. Was being a heel as a singles guy, then had shifted to being a babyface for maybe 3 months or so. Otis started and he was wrestling a lot of openers. Yeah. And, you know, was doing his Otis thing and getting over, you know, and hitting the worm and, you know, caterpillar, excuse me, doing, you know, just being himself kind of. And Matt came to and talked to me, hey, what do you think about, you know, maybe you guys getting together and seeing if there's something there? Okay, let's try it out. Our first match, we're actually heels. I remember this distinctly. We're wrestling in Ocala, Florida, and the venue there is outside. It's like a pavilion outside of a Hilton hotel. And so it's covered, but it's open air, right? And this was in the summer, like in August or something. And it was a hot and steamy Florida day. Yeah. And I mean, I remember like we came in the ring and we gave each other a hug, and it was like we hadn't even started wrestling yet. It was the sweatiest bear hug I ever had in my entire life, you know. And we were wrestling TM61, and that was our only time that we wrestled as heels. It was one time. I was like, okay, you know, I think there's something here, but like whatever you guys got going on, it's probably not going to work as bad guys. Like the people, you guys are like jovial big guys. They kind of want to be a part of that, you know, fun energy essentially that we have. Then I think, you know, I've said this before, the foundation for Heavy Machinery is you know, Otis grew up in Superior, Wisconsin. I grew up in Hubbard, Oregon, both pretty small blue collar areas. And then on top of that, we were both high level amateur wrestling heavyweights. You know, it's being high level amateur wrestlers, that's one thing, but heavyweights, kind of their own category of people with sort of unique attitudes, and we're not always cutting weight. So we're kind of more happy than everyone else on the wrestling team most of the time. And so because we both kind of had those things before we ever met each other, there was this foundational level of understanding that we had that was like, okay, there's something here that's going to work out because, you know, like I said, just what's understood doesn't need to be said, right? We have this level of, okay, like you did this and I did this. We're not going to try to measure dicks about that or nothing. Like we're going to use our powers together and, you know, try to accomplish some great things.
Heavy Machinery, I mean, this team was something that we really haven't seen in a long time, especially in WWE. You know, two bigger guys, but also such a positive team. I mean, other than the New Day, there was no team that brought such, you know, energy and positivity to the crowd, and Heavy Machinery was that other team. You guys started picking up some steam in NXT, getting a lot of wins, getting into, you know, title matches here and there. Were there any initial plans to put the NXT titles tag team titles on you guys before you guys were called up?
I don't believe so. No, I mean, and there's definitely a little bit of bitter taste in both of our mouths that we were never that we never got to wrestle on a takeover.
Yeah.
You're not going to convince me ever that I watched all of those matches on takeover, of course, while I was there, and no disrespect to any of the other people, but there was a couple of tag matches while Otis and I were there and we watched them, and it hurt to not be in front of the audience. That was really my only goal that I had as an NXT superstar. Like, it was not about titles. I want to wrestle on a takeover. I want to be one of those 5 matches. And, I feel like we did enough, more than enough to have, that we should have gotten an opportunity that we didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the primary reason for that is. I think part of it maybe is just because our style was maybe more of a main roster style than it was a NXT kind of work rate style, I guess, for lack of a better term. So yeah, we didn't, at least there was nothing brought to us like, hey, it sort of felt like anytime that we got to that point, somebody else kind of jumped over the top of us, or whatever. It felt like we had some pretty good momentum going on. And then the War Raiders, they came in, right? And they sort of just like, they used us to catapult over. And I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, that's the business. So, I don't hold like ill will or anything like that about it. But, at the time, that was sort of our frustrations existed, in that kind of realm. And so, we were surprised, I guess, that we got called up when we did, because, it felt like maybe our story arc in NXT had not completed its full circle, but yeah, I mean, as far as I know, no, we didn't have any opportunities, or any, there was not really a lot of talk of that happening for us.
Yeah, because Heavy Machinery as a team in NXT really did not last long before being called up. I mean, at least it didn't feel like you guys were there as a team for that long.
Yeah, I mean, it took us probably 8 months or 9 months of wrestling on the coconut shows before we had that initial Dusty Rhodes tag team against Aries and Roddy Strong. But even then, I mean, there you go. It was like, we're putting over Roderick Strong on his debut, not the other way around for Heavy Machinery, right? We weren't even Heavy Machinery at the time. We're just Otis and Tucker. And, I feel like we got just as over as Roddy did in that match. And yeah, I mean, you're right. And then I think that would have been, I think we were on TV for about a year and a half, and NXT TV for about a year and a half before we went up.
And you guys get the call up to Raw and SmackDown. What was the initial reaction to hearing that, or that moment that they tell you, all right, you guys are coming up?
I mean, litany of emotions, right? Obviously extremely excited. I've been, at that time, I had been there for 5 years, so I felt like, okay, I put in quite a bit of time and effort into this, and to see that come to fruition, obviously, is a very good feeling. Feels like well, I gotta say, you can't go 5 years there without doubting yourself at some point in time. I think in those 5 years, by the time we went up, there was only 3 people that had been in the Performance Center longer than me, right? So I had seen almost 100% turnover in that building in 5 years, other than 3 talent. So, just excited and scared a little bit, of course. For me, obviously, I have my family too, so kind of just considering how that was going to impact them, and trying to discuss with my wife, okay, how are we going to get all the things we need to get done before this happens, type of deal. Because it was quick, man. I mean, it was like, hey, you guys are going up, and then like the next week, you guys are going. And we didn't have brand initially for maybe till after WrestleMania, so we were working both TVs for almost half a year there, which was, so we were busy for those first 6 months. We were on the road like crazy. So
For you, what was the biggest difference between the NXT atmosphere and going to the main roster atmosphere?
I would say just the size of the machine. NXT is especially at Full Sail. It like, I'm not saying it doesn't seem big, but it's obviously much more compact, right? It's in the same place every time we do our television. You kind of get used to the routine. You sort of see the same people, right? You can kind of understand what to expect. Now you go on the road, and there's, if you count everyone in that building, I bet there's 500 or 600 people, from the crew to merch and catering and the seamstresses and producers and writers and all the other backstage TV production, whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
So just the sheer scope of the operation to me was, and all the things that come along with that. Okay, you got to meet all the new people. Like, now it's a new building every single week, so you got to try to kind of take the lay of the land. And like, 1 week the things are in one place, but then the next week you're in a new building. You got to figure out where's talent relations and where's all this other stuff. And
going to a new school.
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then you got to, on top of that, now you're standing in Gorilla with Vince McMahon in there, and like, holy crap, dude, this is a much more intimidating atmosphere than NXT as well, right? I mean, just the level of just the level of energy, the level of everything is elevated to such a degree that that was the biggest difference, and kind of just all the things that come along with that size and scope.
And from there, Heavy Machinery did a plethora of things. I mean, the angle with Mandy Rose and Dolph Ziggler, leading to the WrestleMania match, Money in the Bank. But the one thing that wasn't done was winning the tag team titles. And that to me was how this team was so unique and so over. How did that not happen? I mean, what are your thoughts on, I mean, in a couple of years you guys were on the main roster, for that not to even take place?
I mean, obviously disappointment, at the risk of sounding arrogant, I think maybe a part of the reason we didn't get those is because we were able to get over on our own. That, hey, this is a big babyface team. Like, you listen to the crowd when we come out, they love us. They're all about us. Like, you don't need to put the straps on us for them to be like, hey, we like these guys and we're all about them. We're already all about them.
Yeah. So
to me, I think that's a piece of it. I mean, championships are, for lack of a better term, a television prop, that is, that's the thing. It's the prize that's fought over. You need something when there's an antagonist and a protagonist and they have a conflict. They have to both want the same thing, right, for that conflict. Absolutely. So, in wrestling setting, that's what the championship exists for. Obviously, the main championship, the top prize, does come with a level of stature, and there is a realness about being that guy. Yeah. I'm not trying to side skirt that or anything, but at least for me, kind of, that's the way that I, always sort of looked at it, was like, well, like a championship, the tag championships to me doesn't mean that we're like any better or worse than any other tag team, right? It's just a part of kind of our television atmosphere and what we do. And now, of course, like, we're going to try to get those, no doubt about it. But like, at least when we're having conversations with each other, me and Otis, it's more about like, how do we think the audience is going to react to us versus what do we need to do to try to get the tag team championships?
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with another fellow podcaster yesterday about the same kind of topic. And we kind of said, like, you can win, the 17 championships, but it's more about the moments and memorable things that you do for the crowd that last forever. And
people remember how you make them feel.
Exactly. And I think Heavy Machinery did a great job of doing that. But another storyline you guys were put into was obviously the one with Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, and Dolph. What was the initial plan for that whole storyline? Because we didn't really see like an ending to it. It kind of just, everyone went their separate ways. What was?
Who knows, man? I mean, that word plan is not a word that's used all that often, or at least not with talent, maybe at least not with us.
Yeah.
I think it was probably not supposed to last as long as it did, and they realized that they had a pretty damn good thing going, so they
Yeah,
were
but it was
trying to figure
fantastic.
out ways to stretch it out, you know,
Yeah.
for sure. The lack of a payoff, I have no idea. I mean, I'll probably go to my grave not understanding how you could have a 6-month storyline that, you know, was definitely a top 5 storyline during that, and maybe in terms of casual fan interaction, the top one in the company.
Yeah.
And then just basically have those two go their separate ways and pretend like it never happened in the first place. Very insulting to the audience, in my opinion. Makes them much less likely to invest in a long-term story the next time, right? There's
Of course.
long-term ramifications and consequences to not having payoffs like that, you know, and in people's level of investment. So obviously, you know, disappointing that something that, you know, was so enjoyed and was so, you know, taken to heart by so many people was sort of just left kind of in suspension without any period of any kind whatsoever. I suspect that at the time they didn't want either Mandy or Otis to be a heel. They wanted them both to remain baby faces, and they probably couldn't figure out a way to split them up without it making one person, you know, not look good, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, it's just as baffling to me as it is to everyone else that there's, you know, no payoff in especially now you got Otis as a heel anyways, you know. So it's like
it's one of those throw your hands up in the air situations.
Yeah, really. I mean, obviously, you know, and not to make any excuses for it, but the pandemic did happen, you know, before the end of that story too. And when you miss fans, they're the essential component of wrestling, right? I mean, really, pro wrestling wouldn't exist without fans. So, I mean, all of the things that have happened post fans, I think, you know, that's a big reason why, even if we don't discuss that was the reason, we try to look at all the other little reasons. That's still kind of the main catalyst, I think, for anything going off the rails kind of post, you know, from pre-COVID to being in the pandemic.
Is there anything that you or Otis had pitched that you wanted to see happen to, you know, make that storyline flourish that didn't really work out?
I'm trying to think in that one. Well, so I mean, I tried to pitch to be part of the WrestleMania match, right? I wanted to like come out and basically just have you know, somebody essentially stop me from trying to help my brother, right? But it was hard because initially Bobby Roode was supposed to be part of that, right? But then because of the pandemic, he's in Canada, and so now like you can't have more baby faces than heels, really. It's not a good formula or whatever.
Yeah, it was setting up like a tag match or something.
Setting up like a tag match or something, yeah, you know, or even something where like you know, Dolph is being noticed down really badly or something, you know, and then I come out to try to help him or whatever. And, you know, then Mandy gets mad at me because I'm like trying to, you know, fight with Dolph or whatever, but that gives Otis the chance to kind of come back. And then they sort of have their moment of like, you should be with me, not with him, right? Which ultimately happened. And I mean, just imagine that kiss in front of 75,000 people and the moment that it is versus, you know, it having to happen in the performance center with essentially no one around. And not that it took in, I mean, it did take a lot away from it. It wasn't anyone's fault. It's just the situation. But definitely, you know, disappointing that story couldn't have ended in front of a bunch of people, because I think it would have been a memory that would have lasted for a long, long time.
Of course. And from there, Otis went on to go into Money in the Bank and ultimately win it. Was there any plan? Was there any like direction that they were giving you guys that maybe he would cash in for you guys to win the tag titles? Because a lot of people were reporting that or saying rumors, whatever, saying that, they're going to go after the tag titles. Otis is going to cash in for that. Or was it just for what they did with it?
I mean, that would make sense, right? Like that would be the thing that would make most sense. You know, I personally never heard that discussion. And I also personally feel like that wouldn't be something that they would do just based on kind of what I see happening around me. Like I said, this is pure speculation. I have no idea what the conversations were actually happening around that Money in the Bank. But you know, when was the last time that the tag team championships were in the main event picture? Right. So to me, the Money in the Bank is like one of their top two gimmicks as a company, really. Okay. And essentially means when you get it that you're going to be the world champ. And if you're not, that's very bad for your career, right? I mean, there's only a couple of people that have failed to cash in, and it usually means they got heat or something bad's going on backstage, or there's some other thing happening there.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that kind of thing that leads me to believe in my mind that they would not have had us go after the tag team championships with the Money in the Bank because of what I see happening around me. Like I said, that's purely me speculating. Yeah. And I never heard them discuss that at all. So you would think that, you know, we probably would have discussed that a little bit if it was on the table. I mean, at the time that Otis won the Money in the Bank, I wasn't even being brought to television.
Wow.
You know, there was like a month there where, and I didn't, you know, I was like, hey, what's going on? And they're just like, oh, well, we don't need you, so we're leaving you at home because it's the pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, all right, you know, and that's all the answers that I'm getting. You know, that's the only thing I'm being told. And it's like, okay, well, you know, I mean, so I feel like perhaps they wanted to split us up before they split us up, and then something happened around the Money in the Bank, or something happened during that time period when I wasn't there that maybe they're like, okay, we want to push that back a little bit. I'm not sure. But yeah, I feel like there definitely had to be some kind of a plan that they ultimately didn't use, right? Because why else would they have given him the Money in the Bank in the first place?
Yeah, and just the whole thing that happened where he ended up losing it to Miz, just what was the whole point, you know? But what was your reaction to hearing that they're going to break up Heavy Machinery? Because it really, to fans and myself, it didn't make any sense.
I was pissed, man. I was pissed. I was super pissed about it. Like, I was pissed. I was disappointed. I didn't understand it either, you know? And I mean, there's kind of two layers to it. Like, because I love Otis and we have a legitimate shoot brotherhood. I talk to this guy every single week. Like, I'm so happy that he's still being successful. I want nothing but the best for this guy. And like, I mean, we really have a very good little brother, big brother, you know, kind of dynamic. Like, you know, we travel together all the time. We were always together during that time. So, you know, we also feel like I mean, I got moved to a different brand, so now I'm not seeing this guy anymore. Like, there's that kind of layer of it, you know, and then kind of the professional layer. I mean, particularly after I turn on him and then I don't like do anything immediately, I kind of know like, I think I'm in trouble here, guys. Like,
something going on.
It's probably not good for my career. When they have someone turn and they want to use them, they usually have them make an impact right after their turn. So it's probably not good for me. You know, but even then it was a half-assed thing because they split us up on Talking Smack because they wanted like a little pop on the Talking Smack deal or whatever. That was truly when I found out about it. Was like an hour before that segment or something, Talking Smack, right? And then we proceed to like do stuff together for another month or something, you know, like he's coming to Raw, I'm going to SmackDown, and it's just like, you know, I feel like there was a chance that they wanted me to be part of Raw Underground, and then sort of like in between us, like me being moved to Raw, and then that 3 weeks or whatever go by, and then finally I hit him with the deal and we fully split off. Raw Underground got scrapped in that 3-week period.
That would have been better than what they did, because it just, first off, having it happen on Talking Smack. I mean, yeah, you can do the draft or whatever, but to have the initial split on Talking Smack, I mean, I don't think that was the smartest thing because it's not on live television. But then having you guys do stuff together, but you're going to Raw. I mean, it just didn't. It seemed like there was no direction for them behind what they were doing, and
it seemed like that to me too.
Yeah, and you know, looking back at a lot of the teams that come from NXT that come to the main roster, over time they end up splitting a lot of them up. I mean, if you look back, Enzo and Cass, for example, even Cable and
Jordan.
Yeah. They end up splitting a lot of teams up. When you guys came up, was there any idea, like even in the back of your mind, that there could potentially be a singles run anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I knew, like I said, just because of the same reasons you were just talking about, like I pay attention, I see what happens around me, So, for me, I guess like I had some ideas in the background, but I'm all in on this heavy machinery thing.
Of course.
And personally, I haven't played any individual characters. So like on WWE or any other TV, right? I mean, I didn't wrestle in the indies before. Like I literally came straight from college wrestling to WWE, right? Like I graduated from college, 4 months later, I'm in Orlando.
Wow.
So and that's on me. Like I'll take the onus of not being prepared to have something like immediately ready. But also when the split happened, I wasn't even booked for that pay-per-view. Like we did the El Gran Gordo thing. And then I didn't like, there's a TR app, you have dots on the days you're booked, right? I don't have a dot on Sunday for the pay-per-view. I do have one on Monday. So because, I'm just staying in town, I'm not going to fly back home on Saturday to fly back out Sunday, especially we're getting tested, all this stuff. So I'm going to play golf on Sunday in Florida at like 1:00 in the afternoon. Wow. And I get a text from travel saying they need you at the arena. I'm like, well, and call times 2, right? I'm like, well, I'm not going to be there on time. They're like, whatever, just get there when you can type deal. So I get there at 3 and nobody really even talks to me until like 4:30 or 5, trying to figure out what's going on. Finally, I figure out what's happening and like, okay, this is what we're going to do, whatever, So I'm like, all right. I mean, so I'm trying to like ask questions, but it's really short time frame. Like I said, I mean, from the time I was told what we were doing until the time I went out on TV and did it was probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have enough time to probably ask all of the questions that I should have asked beforehand. I did ask some questions. I do feel like I was paid basically lip service and not kind of. Well, I just feel like the way that whole thing went down was sort of like it happened in the way it happened in order for me to kind of just like go with it and then, right. I mean, that's my feelings on it. Like I said, there's just still me speculating, but looking back on it, like that is my really one big regret is doing that. I wish I would have just said no, because obviously there was no plan afterwards. I didn't have a good enough plan, and kind of talking about a new character and sort of parlaying right into it. Like I said, I mean, like you make an impact, you need to make an impact right then and there, right? Yeah. Or, it has to be the next night, it has to be whatever. So the next night on Raw, I'm wrestling Humberto Carrillo on main event, right? So I'm trying to ask like, what's up? And basically the answer I'm getting is like, well, this is a test. I'm like, well, I don't even have like, you guys aren't setting me up to succeed in this test very well. Like I have to wear my heavy machinery gear because I literally wasn't told anything and I don't have any other stuff with me or whatever, So, and like I said, I mean, it may sound like I'm making excuses, and I'll certainly take some of the onus for, not being as prepared, I guess, immediately as I should have been for when that split happened. But, I also was spending all my mental energy on trying to make heavy machinery as successful as possible, and that's just kind of my personality. I'm a very all or nothing person, when I'm in something, like I'm all the way in it. And I maybe thinking about contingency plans, but I'm not like actively making a bunch of contingency plans in the back. I'm like, no, the way I see it, we still got a lot more to give as a team. Like, and so, I didn't think that was going to happen. Obviously I knew it could happen, and it did. And, here we sit.
Yeah. Because after that Hell in a Cell, spot, you turn on Otis, he loses the Money in the Bank. There was no payoff, no anything for that. They just put you, you went to Raw, new attire, new everything, and just the 24/7 championship. I mean, there was it just didn't make sense as to what they were doing. And again, that's to a point that's not even on you, because you work for them. They're the ones supposed to tell you, okay, this is what you're going to be doing, weekly on television, not an hour before, just throw something together. I mean, it's it's very, and you wouldn't think that this company, being the $1 billion company that it is, a lot of people say the same thing. So it is, again, it's a toss up, and you never know, what's, like you said, there's no real initial plan for it.
Well, I mean, just kind of like, I mean, if you guys are going to let me go, just have him kick my ass up and down the ring on Monday or the next Friday, just something, you know what I mean? Just have him beat the shit out of me and give me a concerto or whatever. I don't know, but just like,
Right,
let's do something. I at least want to help my brother. I mean, it makes both of us look not good. It's like, okay, well, so this guy just got turned on by his brother. His brother hit him in the head with his briefcase. And then he's just like going to pretend like that never happened. And then they're like, well, we don't want to make Otis look stupid. I'm like, well, him not fighting back after his brother of 3 years turned on him kind of makes him look stupid, don't you think?
And that's a huge story too. I mean, that could have been something where you guys had a big match, and then he goes over, and then you guys go your own ways,
right?
And that you leave it out.
Wrestling is supposed to be.
Exactly. And then over time, Otis, he's still over doing his whole thing, and then they turn him heel with Chad Gable. Now they're at the Academy, so the fans are thinking, okay, he was in a successful tag team, they did this whole thing, and now he's back in a tag team. So why? How do you feel about the whole, I mean, this whole thing that's happening now?
I mean, like I said, I love Otis. He's my brother. I love Chad Gable as well. The three of us, we would ride together quite often, right? Another high level amateur wrestler. We all have, we have a brotherhood and a bond. So I don't have any, ill will towards those guys or any kind of, obviously I'm disappointed because of the way things have gone for myself personally. But by the same breath, like for the last 4 months, I've gotten to see my daughter more than I probably had for the 2 years before. And my body feels great. And I feel like I'm in a super great spot mentally, in that, I'm starting to really push a lot of positive things forward, not just for myself, but for other people, and I've been, streaming on Twitch, and I've been really enjoying that and interacting with people in that way. And that's something I wouldn't have been able to do if I was still, with the company. And there was some things around COVID that I was very disappointed with. I don't want to get into a bunch of that stuff or whatever, but, things were not handled in terms of talent safety in the way that I thought maybe they could have been handled, best, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Before and leading up to the WrestleMania that happened at the Performance Center. And I can admit that particularly after Heavy Machinery split, I was not in a good place mentally. I just wasn't. I was disappointed, upset. And I don't even know that I had like fully taken the time, or I think maybe I was still so in it that I hadn't been able to kind of just like step back and realize just how much it was affecting me, and just how like I was bringing that home with me, right? And all these different things. So, when I talk to amateur athletes, one message I talk about all the time is having a growth mindset and versus having a fixed mindset. And to me, that looks like, finding solace, finding joy in the journey, right? Not in the outcomes, not in the highs and lows. And this is not something that I did forever, right? I mean, for a long time, I had my ego attached to the outcome, but particularly over the last years, I've done these meditating, done different things, right? I've taken a lot of that ego and I've attached it to my ability to be a father and my ability to be a husband. And then I've also placed it on, like I said, the journey, right? The outcomes are ways for you to test your process, right? That's what they should be. They shouldn't be the things with which you derive all of your self-worth from. You should derive your self-worth from the little efforts that you make on a daily basis in service of those big goals. And so, really having the time at home over the last few months to continue to do more research about that and figure out just what it is that I need to be in such a good spot mentally, right? I mean, it's a cliche, but like you got to fill up your cup before you can pour it out into other people's, right? And so to find some kind of a routine that I can spend 30 or 60 minutes on every morning and feel like after that time, I'm ready to give myself to the day in the way that I need to give myself is not something that I had before I left WWE. And it's now something that I do have and I think is making profound impacts on my life. So, as much as some of those things were hurtful and negative, and I wish that they, had been potentially different, I also recognize that, timing is important, and the things that are outside of the scope of my control are just that, those have been some of the positive things that I've taken away from, what's ultimately been maybe not the most positive situation.
Yeah, because obviously, being in that negativity or that negative state, leaving WWE, but on the upside of that, you now have all these experiences and all these memories and all these moments you were part of creating. Plus, you get to enjoy your time at home, be there for your daughter and be there for your, the birth of your next child. Get all those things that you really weren't able to have before, pull yourself back, and now be able to explore other options, because there are other options in pro wrestling. It's not, the end all be all WWE. There's so many other things to do. And I think ultimately, even going through a negative situation, you walk away a winner, because you get to have so much more than just that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you go through a breakup, right? Like one of the positives from a breakup is that at least you should leave with new non-negotiables, right? You should leave with new, sort of, okay, red flag warnings, right? The things like, I'm going to nip these in the bud the next time I get into a relationship, right? And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm going to now go wrestle on the indies. I've never done that before. And, I'm 30, almost 31. I've been a professional wrestler for, 8 years now, basically. And yeah, I mean, to be able to use all of those tools, right, that I learned over the past 8 years, and all of the amazing people that I've gotten to learn from, and all the little, things that I've taken away from them and the lessons that I've learned. And yeah, now to be able to have the opportunity to apply those things in whatever way I want to try to apply them without really any restriction. How could that not be exciting? And then on top of that, I mean, I've always been like, tell me I can't do something, I'll show you that I can type of person. So, to let me go under circumstances where I feel like maybe I didn't get the opportunity to show all the things that I'm capable of showing, and now I do have those opportunities, a little bit of fire in my belly. That's also another, positive thing.
Yeah. And, now there's a lot of people watching and a lot of people, waiting to see what comes next. I'm sure the opportunities are going to be pouring in for you soon, because now going to the indies, doing things your own way. I mean, who knows? It's doable. They may even call you back later, down the road. We want you. So anything is possible here. And I'm really excited to see, what you do next, and, everything going forward for you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's a good time. Like, I'm going to be stripping away a lot of the facade. That's why I'm calling myself who I am, Levi Cooper. Look me up, you can see the kinds of things that I've done. I beat people up to pay for my college. I was damn good at it. And to me, I think maybe the world needs a little bit of reminder. And in all truth, I need a little bit of a reminder about, who I am, what I'm about, what are the things that make me tick. Because I realize ultimately the only way that I'm going to be successful is if I can be authentically myself and figure out what pieces of my authentic self connect with others. So that's sort of the journey that I'm on now, right? That's why I'm spending time on Twitch. Yeah. And that's why, in terms of a wrestling character, I'm going to be for 6 months or so, like I'm just going to be testing out basically, maybe the kind of little facade that I'll put on is force of nature, right? A person who understands the calm and beauty with which nature presents itself the majority of the time, but when is necessary or required, intensity and violence, raw power are what nature can show you when you kind of forget, or you get sort of entranced in the slowdown and the beauty of it. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how I can kind of apply that and how I can sort of use that, yin and yang, for lack of a better term, that kind of energy, how I can use that going forward.
And is there any place in particular right now that you're looking to, to maybe get involved with, being that there's so many other options, not just, independent wrestling, but all over the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would love to wrestle in the UK and in Europe. Love to do some stuff there. I think the times that I have been over there, I've really enjoyed it, and I recognize there's a little bit of a different audience, and so personally for myself, kind of my goal in my new journey is, and I'll have sub goals and different things, but I'm most interested in trying to become the best performer that I can become, not comparing myself to other people, but trying to be very honest with myself. Hey, did you get better today? Yes or no? Hey, which areas do you need to improve on? Okay, we're going to try this thing. Did it connect with people in the way that you wanted it to? Yes, no, or why? And so I think, wrestling in any different place, I would also really love to wrestle in Japan. I have not gone to wrestle in Japan at all. I feel like my size and my style, I think, the style that I want to present going forward anyways, could work out pretty well there. And, like I said, I think there's just to put myself in as many different kind of environments as I can over the next few years, so that I can really test myself as a performer.
Yeah, and I think this time for you, it's really exciting. The 90 days no compete is over. You can do literally whatever you want now. Go explore all these other options, and honestly, I'm just really excited to see what comes next for you.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun.
Now, for everybody listening and watching, where could they go follow you, find more of you, and find more of Levi Cooper?
Sure, yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're a promoter, you want to see the big guy come to a town near you, find me on booklevicooper@mail.com. It's also in my in the bios of my Twitter and Instagram, which are both real Levi Cooper. And in addition to that, I've been getting down on Twitch 3-4 times a week, mostly just been playing video games, but definitely going to start streaming myself doing yoga on there a couple times a week. Want to do some community barbecuing and baking, and that's Levi Cooper Live. So Levi Cooper Live at Twitch. Give me a follow, come play some video games with me, and let's have some fun.
Levi, it's been an honor and a pleasure to talk with you. I'm so happy that you're in a good place and ready for this next chapter in your life. So I'm excited for you and to see what you do next, brother.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. And we'll stay in touch and have a good one.
All right, you too, man.
And before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below to stay up to date with the next big interview right here on the Angle Podcast.